Hey, what's going on, guys? It's the One Guy Crew bringing some more videos for you. And today we have finally another upload. Oh my god, it's been like what, 2 months now? Like, Jesus Christ, Colton, get your shit together. Anyways, as you could probably tell by the title, thumbnail, description, anything really, this is going to be finally another crew reviews on the brand new It Chapter 2. This movie just came out. I saw it last night, which was September 6th last night. I don't know when you guys are going to be watching this, hopefully sometime soon. But yeah, so by now I hope you guys realize how my crew reviews works. It goes, we have a non-spoiler segment where I talk about the story, characters, and how it works and if I think it's good or not. And then I have a long ass spoiler segment where I just go through the story in case you don't want to really watch the movie. So yeah, we're just gonna get right into it, might as well, with the non-spoiler segments. But yeah, so the characters, I believe personally, I knew it when I saw the trailer that they did pick pretty good actors to portray the kids. Pretty good adult actors to portray the kids. And I'm really happy with how they picked. I think they did a really bang up job there. And the actors themselves, they portray characters very good, and they are, you can tell which one is like gonna be the comedic one, you can tell which one's the serious one, which one, they're different roles, the supportive characters. And it's really interesting, and I really like the dynamic of it. Although I feel like some of the characters and some of like the points where they were supposed to be like funny or serious, that didn't really match up really well. And I feel like at some serious moments it was just too comedic, and at comedic moments it didn't really fit in there. But the story was really good. I thought it moved along really well, and I thought it progressed itself nicely. Let me know if any of you guys watched the original It show back in what, 89 maybe, was it 85? I don't know, sometime back then. But the one with Tim Curry in it as Pennywise. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do. Well, you better let the poor guy out. Yes, I am wearing a USA shirt. Fucking go America, y'all. Anyway, so yeah, the story and plot progresses very nicely. I don't feel like it progressed too slow or too fast. I feel like at points when it did speed up, they were pretty nice. It did flow through nicely. And I don't feel like any point was really too slow at all. Although I did feel like there was, like, they shoved a lot in there in like a small amount of time, especially at some points. Like at some points it was just boom, 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 here's a scare, here's a scare, here's a scare, boom, 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 all that stuff, and then a bit of slow parts. But I think it did, it did a good job of, climaxing, then ramping down, then another one, then ramping down, and I feel like they controlled that pretty well. I just realized I've been watching some of my videos before, and I realized how off my nose looks. I don't know why it looks like so off. Like it looks like it's just like, it's not. It's a normal nose. I don't know why it looks so off. Anyways, yeah, as I'm sure you guys know, the pre-spoiler stuff is often very, very short, and the spoiler stuff is the entire video, basically. So, if you would like to skip all the spoiler stuff, just head somewhere near the end of the video. Hopefully, I'll have a timestamp somewhere in this video. Maybe, like, right now. Go check that out. Anyways, without any further ado, let's get right into the spoiler segments. Here we go. So, the movie starts off with a gay couple at an amusement park, winning prizes and having fun. And then this group of guys comes along and they beat them up as the gay couple was leaving. They beat them up and they call them, slurs like fag and shit like that. They end up dumping one of the guys off of a bridge. And so his partner, obviously hops off and runs to his aid. Only to find that Pennywise actually got the guy, and he was, bringing him up out of the water, and the dude was like, what the fuck, no, give him back, and shit like that. And then we see Mike as an adult. He comes up, and he sees what's going on, and he sees the writing that says, like, come back, come back, come back, come back. And he obviously knows now, by all the missing cases that have been happening, it has returned. Pennywise has returned. So the next few minutes are him calling his friends, like Stanley, Bill, Beverly, and getting them all together, telling them what's happening, reminding them of what's been going on, because they need reminding, as I will discuss later on. But unfortunately, I'm sure if you guys have seen the old one, I'm pretty sure it was the same character, but Stanley, he couldn't do it. He couldn't face remembering, and he goes into the tub and slits his arm open. End up, killing himself. However, just like in the original, everybody, except for Stanley, gets together and they all share a dinner at the Chinese restaurant. They all get together and start talking. They all start, telling each other about their lives now. Bill is now married and working on, movies and things like that, based on his book that he wrote that is fabled to have an absolutely shit, god-awful ending. But yeah, all the characters get together. Eddie, everybody gets together, and they all start talking. And I'm sure you guys remember the scene in the original. If you watched it, I'm just gonna keep referencing the original, I guess. But the cookies, the fortune cookies that they were cracking open, Sarah, the Asian restaurant, they were cracking them open, and then they just have like singular words on them, like could cut it, not cut it, could it cut, not, and then they finally see Stanley, and they piece them all together. Stanley could not cut it, and then that's when they figure out that something has happened to Stanley. Stanley's dead. So then, just like a major turn of events, these weird monster looking things start coming out of the cookies, and they start just crawling around attacking him. There's one that's like a cockroach fly thing mixed with a baby's head. It's fucking disgusting. And there's like this weird bat thing and then an eyeball. And then Mike, being the epic dude who he is, grabs a chair and just starts smashing the shit out of him and the table and everything. And then one of the workers comes in and he's just smashing a table for apparently no reason. But yeah, after they get done with that, this little kid comes up to Richie. And he's like, he recites a line from his movie, because Richie also works on movies too. And he's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And he starts threatening the kid because he thinks that it's actually it. But it turns out it wasn't. He was just reciting something from one of his shows. So then they all get outside, and a lot of them, Mike is the only one that wants to stay, and he's the only one that has stayed. But all of them want to go back now. They all want to go home because they just don't understand, and they want to forget, and they don't want to relive it. But Bill finally agrees to come with, and Mike ends up talking to him and showing him dreams and, things like that are happening. And he ends up showing him this artifact from this ancient native group, and he gives them like a root of a plant that helps you apparently see what happened. And Bill then has these visions of like these weird meteors or rocks coming down, and it shows really what it was and how it started. And it shows like a containing ritual that they must do. And so after that happens, they all get together. Mike and Bill try to get them all together, and they start telling them what's going on, And they're like, okay, I really don't believe you. I'm going to go home. I don't care. I just want out of here. I want out of this. So they all still decide that they want to go home, and then Bill and Mike are left trying to figure out how to get them back. Meanwhile, people like Eddie and people like Richie are trying to figure out, what's going on. And they go back to these places from their childhood, like a pharmacy that Eddie went to as a child, and he saw these awful visions of, things happening. And Richie going to a park and seeing this, massive Paul Bunyan statue thing turning into like something that it created, and Pennywise ends up confronting him and telling him, I know your dirty little secret, I know. Which me and my buddies thought that meant that he was gay, and I'm pretty sure he is. If I'm fairly certain. But yeah, so that all happens, and then they finally decide, maybe we should actually get together and we should actually try to stop this. But Beverly, she decides to go back to her old house from when she was a child, And so there's this old lady living there now, apparently. And she invites her in, and they start talking. And if you've seen the trailer, then you know about what I'm talking about. The scene where they end up talking, and Beverly searches the house. She looks at all this stuff. She starts reliving memories of her father and things like that. And, you see this, and then she goes over, and the grandma gives her, my father joined the circus when he came here. And you see a picture of Pennywise, and she's just shuffling around naked. But I thought that it was just going to be her running like a naked grandma. But no, she transforms into a massive monster thing. And Beverly ends up running out of there only to find that the building is actually abandoned and crumbling down, So yeah, and everybody's having these different visions. Like Ben, he goes back to his old school. He goes back to school, and he sees these visions of Beverly talking to him and all this stuff. And he's like, I love you. Do you love me back? And she's like, what do you? I never loved you like that. I will never love you like that. And no one will ever love you like that. And it turns out that it's actually like Pennywise and shit like that. And he ends up hiding in his locker. And then a lot of the scenes actually with Pennywise in this movie are hilarious. Like the eye thing, like, oh my gosh, one of his eyes is just like over here, and the other one's just looking straight. It's disgusting, but it's also disgustingly hilarious, and that's honestly what I like it for. So yeah, most of them now have relived their memories and things like that. Bill, Ben, Beverly, Eddie, Richie, Mike. Mike really didn't have any memories to relive, but he did still have some, like from watching his parents burn. He actually had to watch his parents burn. That's why Pennywise gave him the vision in the first movie of people burning and trying to grab the word, because that was his meth head parents. But yeah, so that all happens, and they all get together and start thinking of ways, thinking of what they can do to stop all this, while Pennywise is still terrorizing people. And if you guys remember the bully from the first movie, I can't remember his name at this moment. I just remember that the bully's name was Henry Bowers. So, yeah. But he actually is still, he's in an asylum right now. He is in like a mental ward. But a stray red balloon floats up to him. And he starts following it. And what happens is it's in his room, right? And he starts tugging on the little thing, and he's just like, and that was like a hilarious moment. But then it pops, and it turns out it's actually one of his two friends. If you guys remember from the first movie, one of the other two bullies guys, and he's dead. He's like a weird zombie guy, and apparently he's the bully's chauffeur. He's the guy's chauffeur. He's driving him around town trying to kill the kids, well, the men now, the adults. And so they end up going back to the hotel, our main characters, and they're like, okay, I'm packing my stuff. I'm going. I'm leaving. But before Richie can actually do that, and Eddie can do that, Eddie goes upstairs and he goes into the bathroom where the bully is actually hiding. And he ends up stabbing Eddie in the cheek. And then Eddie goes in the shower and he actually stabs him in the chest. And here's actually like a comedic scene where Eddie's like backed up against the wall. He's just like, and he just like scuttles out of there. Meanwhile, the bully like climbs out and he gets back in the car and drives off. But yeah, so they tend to Eddie's wounds and things like that, while they figure out, why all this is happening, why the bully's out, and they come to a conclusion that it is Pennywise. So now that Bill and Mike have seen their visions, they need to tell others about what they must do. They tell them that they must get tokens from, their childhood, and they must gather those up. And then, we see them going to these places, like Richie goes to the arcade to get a coin because he always used to love playing at the arcade. And they had to get Stanley's token for him, which was they went to an old hideout in the woods, which is where they came after the rock fight incident, if you guys remember that. So they went there and they found these little shower bonnet things that they used to wear down there in this like little dirt cave system thing place, hideout. To keep spiders out of their hair. And then we get like a bunch of flashbacks about fun they're having there and if they're still going to be friends, back when they're, for when they're adults. And then we see Beverly. This is actually when she encounters the entire incident with the grandma and things like that look actually really good, like really stunning. She goes back to get the letter that Ben wrote for her. Like your hair is like, January fire or something like that. And yeah, so that happens. And Ben, he has to go back to the school to get his things. And, Eddie gets his inhaler. Everybody gets their artifacts settled. Everybody gets all their good stuff. So after this bully guy ends up running off, he actually comes back to this museum place that Mike is. And he ends up trying to attack Mike, and he almost ends up killing him if it weren't for Richie coming along and stabbing him in the back of the head, effectively killing the bully. And then they finally decide that they should take a plan of action. They are figuring out where they should go. And in the midst of this, Bill decides that he should head outside and he just, patrol around and go places. He wants to go back to the sewer, the place of entrance that took his brother, where Pennywise came and he took his brother. And he started talking to him. He's like, I know you're down there. I know you can hear me. And things like that. And then we see another vision of Georgie holding up a boat being like, here, take the boat. And then he tries to take it. But then a bunch of hands start pulling him. And he pulls away and he ends up grabbing the boat, which is his artifact. And he sees this little boy come out of his old house, Bill's old house that he lived in as a child. This little boy comes out on a skateboard and he's like, is there anybody trying to talk to you through this sewer pipe? He's like, no. But there are voices in the shower. He's like, what do you mean? From the hole. They're telling me. They're saying that I'll float too. And he's like, you don't listen to them. Not ever. The kid's like, well, I'm supposed to go to this fair. So Bill goes back, and then they see this skateboard coming down the stairway. And on the bottom of it says, you could have saved him too, because Bill thinks that it's his fault that Georgie died. He thinks that he could have saved him if he would have been there. And it says, you could have saved him too. So he's like, oh my God, it's this kid. Pennywise is going to get this kid. So he runs, and we see this whole ordeal at the fair. You've probably seen it in the trailer too, where he's in like the house full of mirrors, like the mirror room, and he's trying to run around, and Pennywise ends up trapping this kid, slamming his... this scene is amazing, because Pennywise is just slamming his head on the glass over and over again, and breaks it, and chomps down on the kid. And Bill just has to sit there and watch him do it. And it was like really tough. So Bill finally decides that he is going to go and kill this thing. So he ends up going to the old house that, they went to before, and the well is in. So, his friends call him and they're like, whoa, what's up? What's going on? And they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to go kill him. I'm going to go kill Pennywise. I'm going to go kill it. They're like, what do you mean? You can't do that alone. So he ends up going to the house, but his friends come along with him, and they're like, we're not doing this alone. We are going to fight him together. So they end up going to the house, and just like last time, they get split up, and they see this vision of Stanley. He's in the fridge, and his head rolls out, and he pulls, literally, if you guys have ever seen The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, the scene where the dude's head, like spider things come out of his head and it starts walking around? That's literally what happens here. Stanley's head grows like spider legs and it starts crawling around and it starts attacking people, and it actually ends up getting on top of Bill, and it starts to chomp down on him, and he's like, Eddie, get over here, grab the knife, kill it, stab it, kill it. And Eddie's just sitting there shocked, not knowing what to do. He just stands there, and then finally Ben shows up and he stabs into the head, because Eddie was just shocked there. And Bill was like, what the hell? I could have died. What the fuck are you thinking? And Eddie was like, please don't be mad. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad. And he was like, it's okay. He understands. And so then they go down to the basement after meeting up with everybody, and they climb down the well. They get going, and they get down to the sewer system where they end up walking around. They actually end up finding this room with this weird sunken, it's like a pirate ship sort of looking thing, but only like the top half of it. It's weird, but I'm pretty sure this was actually the room where all the people were. Beverly looked into his deadlights and stuff like that, and it turns out that she confesses that she knows that they're all gonna die, that this is how they all die, because when she saw those deadlights, she saw how they all died. She saw how Stanley dies. She saw them all die. So they end up going into the water, and they end up trying to get through there. And then Beverly hears something behind her. She's like, I thought I just heard something. And the granny apparition thing gets up and it starts pulling her underwater. And everybody ends up actually saving her except for Eddie. Eddie just stays up there not knowing what to do, shocked again. And he's like, please come back, please come back. And they come back up. And then they finally take this plate off of the entranceway to this little hole that they need to go down. And they finally go down into it. Now, when they go down into it, it's this cave system. So they journey through the cave system, and they find this weird-looking layer. And it's just this massive layer with, weird spike-looking things all over it. It's just really interesting and really intriguing and really just weird. So then they end up looking around, and they figure, well, this must be the place he is, right? Has to be his lair. So they set down this pot thing that showed them the actual apparitions and things like that were happening and things that caused it. And it said on it that they need to put the artifacts in it and hold hands and chant. So they lit a fire, put all their artifacts in it, let it burn, and they started chanting. And through that, 3 massive deadlights come down and they start going into the jar. They start flowing and they keep chanting. And then once they are finally in the jar, Mike puts the lid on them, and all that is settled. Or you may think. So this massive balloon starts blowing up out of the jar thing, right? And it gets so massive, and it eventually pops. And they're like, "What happened? Is everybody okay?" And then Pennywise is there, and he starts talking to them. He's like, "You think that that'll happen?" And then Mike finally tells them the truth that the people that did that thought that they couldn't kill him, and then he ended up killing them. So they started believing that they could kill him. They were like, "Believe." And Pennywise is like, "Oh yes, believe, why don't you?" And then he ends up coming out with like these massive crab claws and everything. And it just looks really cool. I don't know if I like it better than the design from the first It movie, though. I mean, that design was fucking sick, dude. I love that one. But this one was still creepy, spooky, scary nonetheless. So then they end up running, and they all end up getting kind of split up into different sections and parts. Eddie ends up getting sort of like trapped underwater. Ben and Beverly. Ben gets trapped in the old camp, the hideout, and it ends up collapsing and filling with dirt and mud. And Beverly gets trapped in a stall, and it's filling with blood. And the doors keep opening, and it's like her father, the bully, Pennywise. Just people saying like, you'll never amount to anything. You were a whore, things like that. But eventually, just before just drowning, they narrowly escape death. And she busts open the door, and she grabs Ben because it turns out he was like right below her. And then she pulls him up, and then they escape like the nightmare thing. Meanwhile, Eddie and Richie are still running around, and Bill is still trying to figure out what to do. Him and Mike are still hiding out. They don't know what to do or how to help or where to go. And Eddie is actually hurt. He's about to get killed. He's about to, he's on the brink of death. And Pennywise is about to kill him when Richie actually throws a rock at him. He starts distracting Pennywise. And this is probably when my favorite scene comes in, because it's just amazing. Like, he's throwing a rock at him and be like, yeah, you don't like that, you piece of shit, huh? Yippee-ki-yay, you motherfucker. And then, if you guys know anything about the deadlights, you'll know, like, when you see them, like, your mouth opens and your eyes, roll back in your head and stuff like that. So he's like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. And then, it's just, he drops the rock behind him. His arms just fall, and it's just his face. It's amazing. Can't describe how amazing it is. And then Eddie's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to be afraid anymore. I am not going to stand here and let you kill my friend. And he picked up the spear that they got before going into the house, and he aims it for the deadlights, and he chucks it right through Pennywise's head, effectively killing them, or so they may thought. And, they go up to him, and they're like, dude, are you okay? Are you good? We just saved you. And he's like, yeah. Thank you so much. We did it. We killed him. He's dead. And they all come out and they're like, yes, we did it. We killed him, finally. But then, you just see a claw come right through Eddie. Just stabs right through him and just picks him up. And it's Pennywise, of course. Who else would it be? And he ends up killing Eddie. And Richie's like, no, Eddie, no. And Pennywise is like, you thought you could kill me? And so, they all, in a panic, in a frenzy, run back, and they think that they can escape. They think that they can climb up back through the hole. That's what they're hoping they can do. Like, we maybe just be able to escape this, And they said something about, the natives said something about, in order to win, you must make him small. So maybe if we climb through here, he'll have to become small, and nature must abide by its forms. Nature must abide by its form given. It must abide by the rules of its, form. And so they try doing this. They escape this little cave that they're hiding in, and they try running back to the exit. But Pennywise found them, and he gets in front of them. And he's like, "Where do you think you're going?" And they're like, "Wait, we can make him small in other ways." And so this is honestly not what I would figure would come out of a fucking massive clown. He's like, "I am the eater of worlds," and they're like, "You're the eater of nothing, shithead. Fuck you." And he's like, what? And so by this evil clown that's been murdering people for countless years, countless amounts of years, millions if even, just that's his weakness, calling him a dumbass over and over again. And so that ends up making him smaller, weaker, and he crawls into this little corner, and he's like this little baby looking thing. And Bill ends up going up to him, and he just pushes his hand into Pennywise's chest and pulls out his heart. And much like the first It movie, they all put their hands together and they crush Pennywise's heart, finally ending the nightmare. So with this done, the entire house was collapsing because most of the foundation was Pennywise's hideout. It was his lair, Without him in it, it could cease to exist. So they all run out, and they end up, all of them making it out alive except for Eddie. And Richie ended up, he was devastated. He was crying and everything like that. And they end up going over to this old pond that, they met at, and they had fun and played in when they were kids. And they end up swimming around in it, and they're like, you see a flashback of back when they were, little youngins. And they got out of Nightmare on Elm Street 5. And they were like, we're always going to be friends. Nothing's ever going to stop us. And Pennywise, if he ever comes back, just like before, that's not going to end us. So then we get a bunch of these letters, presumably from different people that they all got them. But I believe it's from Mike. I'm pretty sure, at least. I don't think it's from Stanley. It might have been, though. I'm not too sure around this part because I had to go up and use the restroom, and I just had to get a fill-in from my friends about this. But we get a bunch of letters. It's like, it's not a suicide note, but, just talking to them about things that have happened and about their friendship and things like that. And we finally finish off an ending seeing Ben and Beverly together because Ben has changed so much. He's just a whole new person now, basically. We see Bill, back to doing what he loves. We see Richie, back to his own life. And it really wraps it up nicely in like a little bow tie, gives us a little present, and says, "Here you go. Here was your movie, and here's the ending to it." And it finishes up with like a sweet little thing, saying, goodbye, Eddie, goodbye, Stanley, but the Losers Club will never end. And so, yeah, that was a really quick summary of It Chapter 2. Obviously, I didn't get all the details. I definitely skipped over some shit. So if you want all the details, I would recommend seeing this movie. It is a really good movie. But now it is time to give the final verdict. So this movie did have some flaws in it, definitely. But overall, it was a really enjoyable experience, I believe. And I think that you guys would really like to watch it too, especially if you love the original It. I believe that I liked the original It more. I mean, not the original, sorry, the It in like, what was it, 2017? I believe it was, yeah, 2017. But yeah, that movie, I liked it a bit more than this one, but this one was still really good, and I loved it. I feel like it was very faithful to the book, and very faithful to, the original It movie with Tim Curry. If not even better, probably, honestly, is with the acting and everything. And obviously, the special effects looked stunning. So, for the final verdict, I'm going to give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. I do not think it was a perfect movie. I think the pacing could have been a bit better at times. And I did think that the comedy relief and things like that came at odd times. And I really didn't like how they executed Pennywise's, death and ending. But overall, it was a really fun and satisfying movie to watch, and I really enjoyed a lot of the parts from it, and I think you guys would too. So anyways, this has been my crew reviews of It Chapter 2. If you liked it, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, comment in the comment section down below what you would like to see me do a play for the next episode. And as always, stay awesome, Metal Marios, and my very few awesome possums.